Hey, welcome back to Lost in the 80s with Rich and Brian. Uh, Today we're going to talk about a pretty interesting topic, something that we've talked about for a while, and we've mentioned some of this on some of our different episodes so far. But we're going to talk about television, and TV was it was obviously way different than it is today. In the 80s, it was more like you had to obviously the difference now. Two major differences. Number one. Um, you can watch whenever you want if you want to watch a show for the most part. I know there's some of them that still come out weekly, but even when it comes out weekly, you still can choose, when you decide to watch it. And obviously, the next thing is commercials. For the most part, when you are going through a show these days, you don't have to worry about commercials. So those are two of the major differences now, of course. Um, but yeah, it was watching a show back then. I just remember you remember the excitement. You may wake up on a random Tuesday and just remember like, oh yeah, tonight at 8 o'clock I get to watch this or that, whatever it is. And a couple things as we're going through some of these shows and as we're giving our favorites and things. One thing to keep in mind, we're talking about as we experience those shows in the 80s. So it's not necessarily what we think, here on Tuesday, July 14th of 2026. We may be thinking about how we felt in July 14th, 1986. So um, that's what that's how we're going to do this. It's also prime time shows. We're not talking about Saturday morning cartoons. Obviously, we're not talking about news programs because the actual number one overall program in the 80s had the most top 10 was 60 Minutes. But we're not going to count that as part of the episodes that we're focusing on right now. So, Rich, go and kick it over to you. Give me just some general thoughts of your TV watching experience through that decade.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, 60 Minutes, I watched 60 Minutes exactly 0 minutes as a person in the '80s, so that wouldn't have been part of my discussion anyway. But a few things that I think about when I'm thinking about TV when I was a kid, that's a little different or a lot different than today, was how you watched it. Like, the quality was much worse. But, of course, you didn't know that because you weren't I'm talking about the actual picture quality. Like, you weren't comparing it to anything else. You didn't have a 4K TV sitting next to your 480, where if you got close enough, you could see the pixels, with your naked eye. And your parents would tell you not to sit that close because you'd go blind, which may have been true. I don't know. But they were also like when we watch TV now, it's always sitting down looking up because our screens are on the wall. I'm like, my screen's above my fireplace. And even in my bedroom, it's on the wall above you can kind of see the corner of it in the background there, on the opposite wall of my bed. So your TV was usually a huge console, like a piece of furniture. Ours was in a big wooden cabinet and it sat on the ground. So you were sitting on a chair looking down at your television versus the opposite now. And they were able to get away with certain things on '80s TV shows because you couldn't see everything in such high definition that you see it now. So the special effects didn't have to be the same. Like there was, and to me, it made the experience like better as a kid because now some of that stuff you couldn't do with the way things are shot just because the picture is so clear. You would clearly be able to see. It would look like if you watch, I watched a clip of like some sort of new soap opera or something that they were advertising, and it almost looked fake, like AI generated because the picture was so clear. So I think that's the main difference that I see aside from this, you hit on the biggest one, the streaming stuff, was just the overall quality of the picture and that TV nights were kind of a family, you had family dinner, which we've talked about before. We all four sat around our dinner table and then you had to finish your vegetables before you were allowed to go into the living room and watch whatever your dad was watching, even though he likely did not finish his vegetables.
Did you
And
finish
but
yours
he
back then? 'Cause we've talked
No,
about that
never.
before, you're not a vegetable guy.
No, I hate vegetables. I would often put them into my Kool-Aid, when no one was looking, and
Please don't tell me you
sometimes
drank it.
this
You
no,
didn't
no,
drink
no,
it.
no, I was done drinking the Kool like, I'd get a second glass, drink it almost to the bottom, and then offload vegetables into the Kool-Aid. This is a horrible, horrible thing to do, but I just and some vegetables I could choke down, but if it was carrots or green peas, I would generally put them in my hand, and I sat close to the hutch, and again, this is terrible. This is what I did.
I'm already
I would
disturbed.
I would shoot them underneath the hutch, like, where no one would like, nope, that it was a massive thing, nobody was ever lifting that, and when we moved out of that house when I was, like, in the 7th grade, there was just, like, vegetable carcasses underneath there that
I'm
my
surprised you
mom was
didn't
like,
have cockroaches and mice and stuff
"Ye"
like that.
well, I don't think they like vegetables either. Vegetables are just the worst. So but that was kinda how your night went, right? As a 10-year-old, finish your dinner, and then you can go into the front room and by then, hopefully, A-Team was on because it was a rerun by the time I was old enough so it was on Channel 4 in Bloomington every night at a specific night. So my goal was to get done with dinner, go watch A-Team. My mom would fall asleep laying on the couch. Me and my dad would watch whatever shows were coming on that night. So I think that's way like I know family around the TV is kind of even a weird concept now, but I can't remember the last time my whole family sat around the TV and watched a show together. It's gotta be at least 10 years, maybe longer. Now we've watched movies together, but that's different. We planned on that, but just like a night where, "Oh, yeah, this is on tonight, we wanna watch this because it's Thursday night NBC," was like must-see TV. That's all different now. So, I think the entire concept, more than any other topic we've done, I think television is wildly different than it was in the '80s.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. You mentioned the family dynamic. There a lot of the shows were that's kinda what they were. They were, they were based around family. Generally there was you had the obviously you had the back from I don't even know when the Brady Bunch ended, but I mean that was the first kind of like blended family dynamic on a popular sitcom. Then you had the shows like Alf with the mom and dad and brother and sister. Obviously, the Cosby Show was a huge one. The Wonder Years. Um, so many Growing Pains. So many shows had that family dynamic. Um, and that was a big deal, obviously in the '80s. So let's go into. There was a lot of action TV shows back then. What was your favorite back then? Obviously you mentioned Knight Rider already. Was that your favorite action show
No,
or
A-Team
the
was
A
by
Team?
f which yeah, yeah, I mean, you have 3 that I think if any of these 3 were on, I would have been like, because you're not really making a list when you're in the moment. I'm like, "This is my favorite TV show." So A-Team, Knight Rider, and Dukes of Hazzard would have all been in that conversation, but A-Team probably because you remember Mr. T was like a an icon at the time. Like,
Yeah,
he
he was in
wasn't
Rocky.
just yeah, he was in Rocky, but he also made a lot of, like, wrestling appearances, and he was commercials and, then there was a cartoon. So, like, he was massive in, like, the one MacGyver would probably be the other one, and I never was a fan of MacGyver for some reason. Like, it just seemed which is funny to make this distinction because the A-Team always got, like, held captive in a room full of tools that they could make some sort of device out of that would free them. And I thought that was perfectly normal plot line. Where MacGyver would have, like everybody always jokes, like he has bubble gum and a paper clip and he makes a bazooka out of it or whatever. So I never really got into that. But as far as action shows, Knight Rider, A Team, Dukes of Hazzard would have been the 3 that I went to most of the time.
Yeah, Dukes of Hazzard was definitely my favorite. Um, I don't remember watching that. I don't remember that being on prime time. I always remember that being on like Saturday, like at 11, 11 or maybe even noon. I can't. I think that show started in like '78, maybe. think it lasted to
Yeah,
about 83, something like
I
that.
think Dukes of Hazzard was probably like a syndicated rerun by the time we were old enough to enjoy it.
Yeah, I
I
definitely
still
I didn't watch it live.
yeah, just like the A-Team was not I wasn't also watching the A-Team as it released. I was watching it every night as a rerun. And so you would and then sometimes in between, like, reruns were a thing that you were kinda bummed out when you got one when something was being released live, but if there was some sort of, like, break in the season or they hadn't released the next episode, you would get a rerun. But I'm pretty sure I watched all of the A-Team as reruns. Now, Knight Rider was a I think it might have come on Sunday night, if I'm remembering right.
I Yeah, I think it was either Sunday or Monday. I think it was Sunday.
And so Knight Rider was a thing that I remember watching, like, in a serial, like, waiting for the next episode to come out.
Yeah.
Where these others, probably I was watching them, um, as they were syndicated into reruns.
Yeah. Um, well, let's just go right to you're picking one. You had to watch, you're locked in a well, that sounds weird. You're not locked in a room when you're 12, I hope. But, if you were 11 years old and you were told all day long you're watching this sitcom only, so not Knight Rider, just an actual 30-minute comedy or family show, whatever. You're watching it for 8 hours. You don't go to school, you're sick, and this is what you're watching. What show are you picking?
The Cosby Show, very likely would be The Cosby Show. Alf would be a close second, um, but yeah, I was a huge fan of The Cosby Show.
So I am too, and that was my pick. And I actually asked a couple other people, and every person I've asked this question, regarding this episode, every single person said the Cosby Show. So the next question I would ask is, as a kid, what was it about that show that you or we, um, what do you think it was about that show that we love so much? Because it's not like we had things necessarily in common. We didn't grow up with a doctor and a lawyer as a parent in Brooklyn, New York, with a massive house and, um, four siblings. I think was there four? Was there four total?
Uh,
Sandra, Denise, five. Sandra,
Theo,
Denise,
Theo,
Vanessa, Theo, and
Theo,
Rudy.
and Rudy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, okay.
5.
So five. So a large family, a large house, very wealthy parents with high powered careers. That wasn't us. So what do you think it was about that show that everybody loves so much?
Well, one thing, and again, these takes are from the '80s, right? So uh, let's ignore, or at least for the time being, not talk about the stuff that's happened in recent history with Bill Cosby. But Bill Cosby was a very naturally funny person. Like his comedy was not, and I do remember reading that he ad libbed like a ton of the stuff in the show. And so his comedy was not so elevated that only my parents would catch like the funny stuff. Like but if you remember, he was also very animated. Like it was a lot of, you know, body movements and hand movements. And he was very like, he seemed like the dad that you would love to, like, I'm going to go over and stay at their house and he's going to be fun. So I think that was part of it. But the other part of it was I feel like the lessons that they tried to teach, and there usually was in these family sitcoms,
Mhm.
were pretty easily same thing to me with, like, Different Strokes and Webster and Mr. Belvedere and some of these other shows where the lesson was always pretty easy to interpret. I didn't need an adult to tell me what the show was about. And so you kind of felt a little more grown up watching the show because I could understand the lessons in it, and the comedy was dumbed down enough to where I was laughing at it as a, 8, 9, 10-year-old, whatever, however old I was.
Yeah. No,
So I
I
think those
think
are some of the reasons.
yeah, that makes sense. Do you have and this is all on the spot. We don't like say, okay, I'm going to ask this question, and then you say this. You don't know what I'm going to ask right now. So, you have a favorite, maybe not episode, but just a favorite moment in that show that you just remember and like you're like, okay, this is just the absolute best.
Um, the one line from that show that I always remember is when Rudy is like, "Dr. Crusher, middle linebacker." And that's
Yes,
that's a
I do remember
hilarious
that.
moment in the show. But the one where, uh, Mr. Huxtable goes to buy the car and he pretends like he is poor,
Or yeah,
and so he's trying to, like, get the car guy to come down on prices, and then somebody, like, see and he's trying to teach Theo, I think, how to get the price
negotiate.
down,
Yeah.
to negotiate prices, yeah, and then somebody sees him and they're like, "Dr. Huxtable," and then he freaks out.
Hey,
So
trivia.
there's a
Do you know who that guy was that came in?
No, I don't remember that.
Gilbert Godfrey.
Oh, was it really? Yeah. I do kinda remember
Yeah,
that
and
now, yeah.
he's like, "Why are you wearing these raggedy clothes?" Like, he's like, "This guy has, one of his sweaters is worth more than my car or something." Um, yeah, I mean, gosh, I could probably list 50 funny things. My favorite is when Theo gets his ear pierced and he's
Yeah.
trying to hide it, and Cliff comes up and sits on his bed, and they're like doing like these he's like naturally just trying to look back and see if he can see it. And like Theo moves like right along with him, and like they can't so he can't see it. Um, but yeah, the the ear piercing is I probably one of probably my all time favorite favorite episode. But yeah, there were always life lessons. And I think you're right. I think you did feel a little more mature when you watched that show because there was always a really good theme. And really, it was almost the same thing every time. The kids do something stupid. Um, they obviously they get caught. I remember when they Theo tried to smoke in the house, and uh, I remember Vanessa sneaks off to Baltimore to go see a concert.
Yeah, I
I mean,
remember
there's
that one.
just um, what's her name? Rudy and remember the neighbor Peter. Like he never said
Yeah.
anything. He would was like just run away. Like they
Yeah,
use the
I do
juicer
remember
with
that.
like without the lid on it, and like the stuff just like goes flying everywhere. Like there's so many episodes, but like you do something stupid, you get caught, you get in trouble, but then there's always a lesson to that. Like here's why we don't do that, or you know lying about it doesn't help. Always just come and talk to us. That was the good family dynamic part about that series. Um, all right. What are some other shows that really stuck out to you in the 80s that you think still today you could sit down and watch and really enjoy?
I think one that I would actually enjoy more that now than I did then, and I really liked it then, um, but I really liked the Wonder Years, but I assume that there were probably, you know, parenting themes and stuff in that show that I wasn't catching at 9 or 10 or 11 years old. Um, so the Wonder Years was a show that we always watched as a family. Um, there was, of course, Saved by the Bell was right at the end of the '80s, and so I don't know if this really should count as a Saved by the Bell show, or that should be brought into this discussion. But we liked Doogie Howser a lot. That was '80s. Perfect Strangers. Of course, I mentioned Alf. Alf was much funnier as far as like just laughing at the goofy antics. Like there wasn't always, or if there was, I wasn't interested in the lesson. I was just interested in Alf chasing the cat or whatever. And then the dad, how he responded was always hilarious to me because he was just like this huge nerd who was always stressed out.
Yeah.
Um, My Two Dads was another show that I watched. I don't know if I mentioned Perfect Strangers already. Head of the Class, Full House obviously was in there somewhere. Growing Pains, Different Strokes. Um, what was the other one? There was Different Strokes, and there was the break off of Different Strokes with the housekeeper.
Oh, 227? Is that right?
No, Different Strokes had the redheaded housekeeper, and she took the show where she was, like, in charge of those like, Joe and Blair and
Oh,
Rudy,
oh my gosh, why can't Facts of
I
Life.
can't Facts of Life, yes.
Yeah.
So, I enjoyed those I enjoyed Different Strokes a lot. Arnold was obviously a very funny character. Um, so there was just I think there was much more, and we should probably mention, like, there was so much more content on television. Not more, let me take that back, there's way more now, but everything is very either specialized or it's reality TV driven, Dancing with the Stars or shooting cocaine with the star whatever it is, it's always some, like, bunch of people stuck in a house doing something ridiculous, all fake, but back then it was like you were looking forward to these scripted shows coming out and you were following the storylines and the characters, and so I would honestly say there are probably, because we haven't even talked about things like Dallas, MASH, Three's Company, The Jeffersons, The Love Boat, like, there were so many good shows that I don't even know if they hold up now, because I haven't watched them in years, but you were definitely excited to watch any of those.
Yeah.
Magnum PI, as we got older, was a great show. Spencer for Hire. There were just literally dozens of really good shows.
Yeah, so you just a real quick tidbit, you mentioned that you said Dallas. I didn't that show, I mean, obviously, I think that show ended in what, 88, 89, maybe?
Yeah, I was too young to care about that.
My mom loved it. I remember it came on Thursdays. It came on late. I wanna say it came on at 9 or 10. For some reason, I'm thinking 10. It's probably 9, though. You wouldn't think a huge show like that would wait until 10. But I just remember the theme music. I remember setting exactly, this exact spot, on the couch, like, and my mom loved it. And I just remember, uh, the, um, the opening scene where they're showing, like, they're naming the actors, like Patrick Duffy and whoever the other people are. But there was a scene where, like, it's like a helicopter, like, flying over Dallas, and my mom, if you're listening, you're gonna be happy when I say this. Um, she, she's always like, "I worked right there." Like, she worked at a bank, in downtown Dallas, after I don't know if it was after college or something like that, but I wanna say that her and my dad, like, broke up over a summer, and her and her best friend decided they were gonna go to Dallas for the summer, or maybe it was 6 months, I don't know the timeline, but anyway, that's one thing I remember is, like, she would always point out every time, like, "Oh, there it is right there. I used to work there." But yeah, so that always has, special meaning to me, even though I was definitely way too young to understand the plots of the show. Another one that I love that if you think about it, like, why are, 11-year-olds watching this show? I loved Cheers,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's a very funny, you just look at the whole dynamic of that show is, I mean, all it is in a bar. I don't even know if there was ever a scene.
not in the
I'm
bar.
sure there was, but I can't think of a scene ever outside of that bar top. Well, I guess, Sam's office or whatever, but yeah, I mean, it was right there. So, I love that show, and it
Well,
had nothing to
the
do
2
with,
sh
"Oh, I can't wait to drink beer," but I always like. I think part of it was the sports angle.
yeah,
He was a former pitcher for the Red Sox, and it was set in Boston, and every now and then, there'd be, like, some Boston Celtics things kinda intertwined. So maybe that was part of it, but I always loved that show. Did you watch that?
yeah, I liked Cheers, and I'll g so the 2 shows you just mentioned gave us probably 2 of the greatest, like, TV trope, or not really tropes, but, um, 2 greatest some of the greatest '80s TV drama. That the Who Shot JR, like, even though we were kids, like, that was a like, they played that was a decade, maker for that, like, in the '80s, Who Shot JR probably was the thing most talked about amongst TV watchers, I would guess. Um, it was a huge deal. And then the other thing, and this is still persisted to today, like, people will say they have a very, like, Sam and Diane dynamic. And the Sam and Diane relationship on Cheers, the kind of frenemies, will they, won't they, whatever, is still prevalent. Like, people will say that now and may not even know what it means. But so that's, 2 things from those 2 shows that I think were really big. One thing about a show like Cheers that I think also made it funny to us, and this is a very peripheral thing, but those shows with laugh tracks, even if we didn't fully understand the jokes and maybe all of that, we knew what was supposed to be funny because everybody else was laughing. Like, the people in the background were laughing.
Yeah,
And so I remember just, like, knowing that it was funny, but thinking, like, "I don't really get that," but, um, I think that
yeah,
was another thing that kinda let you in as a younger person on the joke a little bit, which made you, again, feel a little more grown up.
right. Um, Here's a question, you didn't know I was gonna ask this either. What's a show that you almost feel embarrassed to say that you loved it? I have an absolutely perfect one. For me, I'm just curious if you have one too.
I can't think of one other than well, probably okay, so I do have one. It is a cartoon, uh, so I am very embarrassed about this, but the music was very catchy. I'll use even though we're not really doing cartoons, I can't think of a live act or like a regular show, but I did enjoy watching Gem.
What is it?
Gem,
Jim?
it was like GEM. They were like a all-girl rock band cartoon. It was ridiculous, but the intro and it was on also, like I didn't watch it when I was 10 or 11. It was more like probably 6 or
42,
7 or
45?
something. But
Would you
but the
watch it right
music
now?
was very
Would you watch it right now
uh,
if it came on?
I would at least do the opening bit, yeah, because I liked the music.
Did you, like, jam along with it, like, bob your head and you're into it?
Absolutely. Oh, I sang a
I've never heard of that show. GEM.
yeah, I'm gonna look up when it was on, just so I can feel better about this because I hope I wasn't 10 or 11. I'm hoping it says like
So
83 or 84,
mine,
but that was my guilty pleasure.
mine was
Oh
Golden
gosh.
Girls. Did you ever watch Golden
Okay.
Girls?
Yeah, we watched it. My parents loved Golden Girls. I actually can't believe I didn't mention that.
So, strange fact about that show, what was the old one? Sophia? Was it Sophia? Was she the mom? I think
There was Blanche and Rose, Sophia, and what was the other one's name?
I don't know.
I think the oldest one is Sophia, yeah, she was like
Well,
Sicilian or whatever.
no, but the funny thing is she was one of the younger ones actual age. Like, she was not
Oh,
the
wow,
oldest person on that show.
that's
That's
funny.
pretty wild. I don't know
Yeah,
where I
okay,
read that, but go
Jim
ahead.
and the Holograms, it was actually JEM, Jim and the Holograms. It came out in '85, so I would have been 7,
Mhm.
but it ran for 65 episodes, and I'm gonna
What's
so
that,
I would
3
have been
years probably?
11. It was out it had 4 seasons, yeah, so I would have been 11 when it ended, um, but it does Chad does say it had, like, an MTV era vibe, so, but I wasn't watching it. I'm gonna say that I watched it just at 7 years old, and then
I
I
was gonna say,
quit.
I think you're trying to make yourself feel better about that by saying, "Oh, it's kind of an MTV thing."
It's pretty horrible, but maybe we'll go back and watch it and think that it really holds up.
Um, alright, couple of last things here before we close out. Um, Couple shows that would definitely be in my actually, I would say top 5 of all time, but they were only in the '80s for 1 year, 1989, and basically for technically just for the first half of the 'cause the typical sitcom, it would start around mid-September and then usually
Yeah,
go to about
mid-September.
before Memorial Day, kinda like the school year, so,
Yeah.
so basically from, fall until, Christmas, 'cause they would never have new episodes. Usually about like a Christmas episode on a show would usually be, like, on the 16th or something like that, 'cause they wouldn't show them live usually again until middle of January. But so 2 shows that today still hold up for me, and actually I loved back even when they first came out. that both came out in 1989. Seinfeld. Seinfeld had 6 episodes in 1989. Um, and Coach. I was
Yeah.
a huge. Still here at the card shop. I will. I'll just put on Coach. It's on the. You can watch it for free on the Roku. There's like an actual Roku channel on your app list, and literally you can watch it for free. So I'll just put it up there and stream it. Um, that both of those shows still have comedy that like you literally still laugh at today. Like there's a lot of shows like you try watching Saved by the Bell today and it's brutal. It's just it's so bad. Um, but a show like Coach and Seinfeld, they definitely still hold up in 2026, just as good, if not better, than when they were on like that. So, did you watch both of those in
Well, so
'89? You think?
I didn't watch Seinfeld, and I don't know why. I mean, we had cable. I was of age to watch something like that in '89, but I just for some reason, I have seen episodes of Seinfeld. This is one of my probably biggest shames in life, but I probably haven't seen more than 10 episodes of Seinfeld in my life. So it's probably something I should go back and
That
watch
is,
because
yeah, that's tough.
the comedy seems like something I would enjoy as far as, like, the style. Coach, on the other hand, I've definitely seen every episode, like, there's it's a funny here's a funny little tidbit about Coach. So, there's a hotel in Memphis that every morning the Ducks it's called the Peabody Hotel. And
Hmm.
every morning the Ducks, like, they sleep in the hotel, but then they walk to the elevator and they get on the elevator and they ride to the very top and then they live on the top of the hotel during the day. And it's a big deal. Like when you stay at the Peabody, like everybody lines up to watch the Ducks. And that now they didn't use the Peabody's name, I don't think, in the episode. But the first time I saw that was on an episode of Coach. And I always wanted to do that. And I remember 5, 6, 8 years ago, whatever, we were on our way to Disney and we stopped at the Peabody and stayed there. It's kind of kind of a bougie hotel. We stayed there and watched the Ducks. That all stems from I would say you're right that the comedy on Coach probably holds up as good as any show from the '80s. Um, and I don't know if I had to pick my favorite characters of all of the '80s, Luther would probably might be number 1. Just
Yeah.
his combination of stupid but insightful and then just over the top was always him and Dauber had such a great relationship. It was
Yeah.
excellent. I
Yeah.
will also still watch 4 or 5 episodes of that once every couple of months usually.
Weird thing, and actually, this was technically in the '80s as well. So you mentioned Dauber, and I had no plans on even mentioning this, but I had a really hard time. You remember Stephen King's show, The Stand, and it was like an Antichrist, Mark of the Beast, all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
That was like a mini series that was
It
on
was
for
a mini series, yeah.
like 4 straight weeks, maybe. It was on. I remember it was on Sunday nights on ABC. But anyway, Dauber was in that, and he at one point was like evil, and it bothered me. Like,
Yeah.
no, like you can't be. No,
Dauber can't be either.
you're Dauber Dubinsky. You're the special teams coach for the Screaming Eagles. Like this is I don't like watching this, and I was not a fan. Seeing that. Um, all right, we're gonna finish off with a lightning round. You don't see I have the advantage here because I know the questions and you don't. So
Yeah, right.
I would apologize, but I don't want to. Um, so overall favorite sitcom, go.
Cosby Show.
Cosby Show for me. Favorite action show,
I'm gonna say the A-Team,
Dukes of Hazzard for me. Favorite drama,
The Wonder Years.
Wonder Years for me. Most underrated.
Uh, I'm gonna go I'm gonna go with Coach because it wasn't on my original list, but then when you mentioned it, it brought back like a flood of memories. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
say Coach.
I'm gonna embarrass myself one more time and say Golden Girls.
Okay.
Because I loved Coach so much. Like, so to me, like I can't say that it's like
Can't be
I can't say
underrated.
it's
Yeah.
underrated. Yeah. Best overall I mean drama. action, whatever. Best theme song.
Okay, best theme song. I'm gonna go with Different Strokes.
I got to go with Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, yeah, that's a great pick, yeah, I probably
Yeah, I
should've
mean
went Dukes of
there's so many. Like I wish we could just like just like play them all. I think licensing wise, we're not supposed to do that kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah,
but anyway, yeah, there's just so many, and it's just different. Like you hear an intro to a show in the '80s versus a show that comes on now, and it's just different, And maybe it's just the nostalgic effect for people like us. Um, but anyway, yeah, this has been fun. Hopefully you
I'm
guys
actually gonna change my pick on, most underrated, and I'm gonna say Quantum Leap.
was that in the '80s?
I think so. I remember watching it. I'm guessing, yes, it was late
Was
'80s.
that the
Uh,
was it Scott? Was it
Bakula, yeah, Scott
Bakula?
Bakula. Yeah, he was like, he would jump into people's bodies at different times and, solve some sort of mystery or problem or whatever.
Hmm.
But I remember sick days home from school, there was some cable show that, like, during the some cable channel during the middle of the day, they would just show Quantum Leap, like 7 episodes in a row or
Yeah,
something.
I think it was like I want to say it was like TNT or USA or something like that.
Yeah, I think USA might be right, but yeah, I enjoyed Quantum Leap. Again, it might have been a little bit out of my range mentally at the time, but it also I'm relating the one of the greatest days of your life is the sick day where you're not really that sick, staying home
Yeah.
from school and watching TV. Those were a good
Yeah,
time. Like,
like when you have the flu and like you're like on day 3 and your mom's like, "You think you can go today?" You're like, "Ah, I think I need one more day." And,
yeah,
they
those were
leave
the
or
best.
whatever, and it's just like the greatest 8 hours ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And because I stayed at my grandma's house during my mom and dad both worked super early, so I would go to my grandma who owned a daycare. If I would, I'd stay there when I was sick, and yeah, on that day 3, I could stay in, she had a separate house away from the daycare, so I could stay down in the basement in the living room, and she would bring me like, I didn't even have I could watch TV all day, and my grandma would just bring me down snacks. Like, I would get warmed up Pop-Tarts for breakfast, and then I would
no
get,
did you ever get vegetables as a snack?
no, absolutely not. My family all understands my relationship with vegetables.
Alright, gonna leave you guys with a fun fact since we're here on, here, right in the heat of the summer. Um, the blizzard, what year was the blizzard invented? Rich, do you have any idea?
Well, I guess when you originally asked this,
Did I
right
ask you this
before we
already?
you did right before we came on,
Oh,
and
okay. Well, I guess go ahead and give
I
the
said,
answer.
so I'm gonna well, no, I'm gonna tell you what my guess was. My guess was 1981, but I was also very wrong.
1985 was the first blizzard. It's a two-part question. Uh, who was the voice behind the first introduction of the Blizzard commercial for Dairy Queen?
So I don't know the answer to this one, but I do remember the baseball helmets, and so I'm gonna guess a baseball player. And regionally, Pete Rose was probably the biggest iconic baseball player of the '80s when I was a kid, so I'm gonna guess
So
Pete Rose.
the reason that the baseball helmets obviously were great, but they blizzards did not come in baseball helmets.
Right, yeah, no, that's right.
Um, Casey Kasem is the answer. Uh, I want to say they had 5 original flavors: Oreo, M&M, Heath. Um, Gosh,
I
I don't
think
remember the other two, but anyway,
Reese's might have been an original
Reese's. You're
flavor.
probably right. And maybe Reese's Pieces also because they're Reese's peanut butter cups and then Reese's Pieces.
I thought maybe cookie dough was one, but
Yeah, I don't know.
maybe
It
that was a later one.
could be something to check out. So anyway, all right. Well, you guys have been listening to Lost in the '80s with Rich and Brian. Thanks for checking us out, and we are out of here.
Later.